All right, let's move now from merchandising to marketing and consider this observation. In spite of marketing budgets allocated to the registration of new students by tertiary institutions, why are there still so many ill-informed youth in the country? Are the education bodies getting their messaging correct? It's an important issue that our correspondent Musa Kalenga gets to grips with this week.
There's a very real pressure on young people nowadays to grow up and become a lawyer, a doctor, or even an accountant. Now, slowly this mentality is changing, but the reality is the pressure still exists. There's also a reality that there's haves and there's have-nots. And the difference between these two people is that certain people have access to resource and information and others don't. We look at tertiary institutions and specifically the messaging that they put out. Are they managing to target young people? Is the correct message going on the incorrect platform? What are the parameters and how does this work? Today we investigate the education marketing mix.
Well, we have two really distinct markets. One is the adult population. These are the guys who generally work and attend classes part-time. And then we have youngsters who come straight out of school. And in terms of profile, it's varied. It's not specific like a university where you would get a type of personality that enrolls for a degree. Right. We see a wide spectrum of students.
We are specifically always aiming to attract top students. We believe in academic excellence, and so all our endeavours are about achieving and attracting top students.
We're looking for very specific clients. It's not your average Joe Blogs. So our students are generally from maybe private schools or the higher SML groups, people that can maybe afford to have a better quality education.
Well, basically because it supposedly has the highest standards in terms of education.
I want to know what's happening around the office world. I want to boost my self-esteem.
My high school principals actually advised me to come here.
This is the only university in this area that offers the course that we all wanted to do.
On the radio I heard like all these people going, Wits gives you the edge. That's why,
I didn't hear about Wits anyway. I heard word of mouth from people who enter and cousins or whatever.
Word of mouth for us has been our biggest selling point. But in terms of the younger population, the technology works, SMSing works, a lot more visual. Things like open days seem to attract them better. And of course, things like Facebook and internet marketing.
We use a lot of print publications which specifically are focused on making career choices or the correct career choices, so we advertise in those.
We've got a presence on the net, we've got Facebook. To a limited degree we use that. The local prints, the Caxton papers for this area, we use them extensively. But mainly it's word of mouth for us.
We use radio very widely, specifically the youth stations, and that way we can reach the urban market as well as the outlying areas.
I think they're marketing really well. I mean, they got everything on the radio and the Wits gives you the edge part. I think maybe more on TV, not too sure about that, and maybe billboards, but everything else I think is perfect, so yeah.
It's just because I knew about Wits. I mean, everyone knows about Wits, you don't need the marketing.
We've got students that bring other people here in terms of recommendations.
Going out to schools, you know what I'm saying? I think going out to schools is not enough, but you have to be more aggressive when you go out in schools, because you can get to a school and for as long as we don't know your college, we're not really going to consider going to your stable.
Have more parties. It's very important that they go to the local schools, I mean in the townships, where those kids are, they don't really have access to much information. Some of them don't have cell phones with the mix-its and whatever. They don't have computers with internet and whatnot. So I think it's better if they go there. Well, word of mouth is also very important. So when they can speak to somebody who's been there one-on-one, they know what is going on and they're more informed.
So there you have it. The consumer has spoken. Certain institutions are getting their marketing mix right, and others desperately need to revisit their marketing mix. What it seems to be is a gentle combination, starting out with the qualification that your offer has to be the right standard, but at the correct price. The next thing young people use to decide is points of reference: family, friends, social networks. They look at these things to decide whether they're going to be coming to your varsity or someone else's. The last and most important thing is the on-campus experience. When they're in your particular environment, how do you excite them? How do you create stories for them to tell to the world and to share with their friends? These are very important aspects to be able to target young people when you're trying to get them to engage in your education institution. So stay tuned and continue to implement what we'll be saying, and you can move your consumer base from being able to be one that just loves you to one that tells stories about the love they have for you.
Now, we'll have more home-brewed youth insights from Musa Kalenga in weeks to come, and you can share your views on the subject on our Facebook page. We are going to return to Cape Town now and our regular trends check with Jonathan Cherry, who's editor of the popular website Cherry Flavour. And this week we're going to talk about brands that make their own ads. Jonathan, welcome. Thank you very much for joining us. You're going to show us a couple, but is this a growing trend?
Yeah, I saw on Twitter the other day that somebody said social media is for people, not brands. And I think as social media becomes the flavor of the year, more and more brands are playing in the space. And, you know, to be quite honest, if you're having a conversation with somebody and there's a brand that keeps on popping up and wanting to butt in, it's a little bit irritating. So there seems to be a bit of a trend towards authentic communication, communication that isn't overly produced or overly strategized. And more we're seeing, especially the smaller brands, making their own ads. The great thing is that nowadays, equipment like HD cameras and editing suites like Final Cut Pro have become a lot less expensive. So smaller businesses are starting to invest in this kind of technology and equipment, and making pretty decent TV ads, I have to say. As you rightly said, this week we have two examples that I'd like to share with you. The first one is from a Cape Town company called Yuppiechef. They're online retailers. They sell kitchen products. And part of their marketing strategy is that they've seen the opportunity to kind of make the process of online retail a little bit more real. And they send handwritten notes with each one of the parcels that they send out. So it's a nice little touch.
I knew it was big. Bigger than anything I'd done before? Maybe. They told me once I'd started, things would never be the same. Of course, I understand now, but back then I had no idea. I mean, how could I? I've done many things in my life. They all seemed important at the time. But this is the real deal. It's tough out there. People have bad days. Quite often, I hear my writing has made a difference in people's lives. That's great. My name is Phil, and I write cards for Yuppiechef.
All right, why do you think then, Jonathan, this ad works?
Well, I think it works if you are a customer or you have been a customer of Yuppiechef. It's a little bit of an inside joke. They're not necessarily shoving a sales message down your throat. But it's one of those ads that it's got a little warm, fuzzy feeling. It's quite emotional, and it kind of sparks your curiosity as to see what are they going on about, what is this handwritten note thing, let me give it a try. So yeah, it's not overly pushy. There's not a huge call to action on the ad. But I think it's pretty well produced for a company that's doing it as their first time making a TV ad.
It certainly has a kind of a rawness and honesty and an authenticity which any ad I would subscribe has to aim for.
It's very much about that case where a lot of advertising these days just seems overly produced, overly strategized, and it's, as you say, it's that rawness that perhaps just makes it real, and it's that sort of the small guy. You just want to support the small guy, and even with this advertising, that real personality of the brand is coming through, and after all, that's what a brand is.
So you've got another one from an outfit called Brewers and Union. Do you want to set it up for us?
They specialize in the making of craft beer, and they're very passionate about craft beer. They're passionate about organic foods and the slow food market, and they've become a little bit of an institution down here in Cape Town, and I see their products are starting to make inroads into the rest of the country. The ad that they've produced, once again, it's their own staff that they've used in the ad, and it's a little bit of a cheeky dig at the bigger guys, which I kind of like, because it's one of those, because it's distributed on social media, they can kind of get away with it.
My name is Gemma. I work for Brews and Union. We make and drink craft beer. A lot of people ask me what craft beer is. Craft beer is handcrafted by an artisan using only the finest natural ingredients. Our beers are traditionally brewed, so they take up to 8 weeks to brew, whereas your mass-produced industrial beers are brewed in only a few days. Our beers are brewed using 4 ingredients, and they're all natural: barley, hops, water, and yeast, whereas your mass-produced industrial beers often add rice, corn, and various other cheaper ingredients to fatten wallets of faceless corporations. Our beers are made in a variety of different styles to accommodate different palates, food styles, and to go with certain occasions, whereas your mass-produced beers are stylistically limited and are almost always the same boring old pale lager. Our beers are unpasteurized, which means they have a fuller, richer flavor. Our beers are natural beers. Our beers are craft beers. Our beers are real beers.
All right, Jonathan, you say this migrates directly onto the social media space. At what point do these brands start to get a little bit more adventurous and start putting this on the big screen?
I suppose when they've got money to do that. But I think, you know, what they do very well is that they build communities, and that's what social media is all about. It's not about interrupting somebody's conversation. It's allowing people that are fans of a brand to kind of engage. So I think what's good is that they distribute it on their networks, and through the grace of God and the amazement of viral, sometimes these things go viral, but if they don't, it's not really a train smash. They're still building that community and reinforcing the reason that people are big fans of those small companies.
I certainly think a marker has been thrown down, though. Always good talking to you, Jonathan Cherry, our trend watcher in Cape Town. By the way, we put the links to those featured videos on our Facebook page as well. On next week's programme, Interbrand's global list of the best green brands, and the debate on this week's show continues on Twitter and on Facebook. Goodbye, and thank you for watching.